P&L, the balance sheet, the scoreboards, you don't have a good understanding of that. Most businesses don't actually know whether they're winning or losing, and it's all done by the seat of their pants. I think that's the accountability that you bring to our life, in the fact that, we sit in a conference room for a couple of days, a bunch of times a year, and unpack the numbers.
So speaking of numbers, from before you started with us to now, what has been the change in the business from a financial perspective?
It was a sub mil. So where we're at now, we've probably 5x, 6x that.
Yeah, and I was looking through your numbers. I looked at your profit difference, and it's a 1,350% or 13 and a half times increase in profit from where you were when you started to where you are now. So I think that's cool. That's a very huge achievement. So, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what your business is, and who you serve?
Yeah, I'm the owner of 5x5. We're a digital marketing agency. We build great-looking, high-performing digital solutions that ultimately generate more leads and inquiries for our clients.
That's neat. And when you go along and let's say joining with Abundance Global, what were some of the things that happened with you in the first 10 years that people can relate to, from the sense of, or hear some of the struggles I had from starting from scratch?
I think the first 10 years of business for us were about really just finding our way. The issues or the challenges that we still had it was still very much the John show. So, I was working too much, big days, 12, 14-hour days every day. I was fatigued, I was worn out, I was stressed. I had a young family at the time. There was no redundancy in the business. There was no ability to take a break. It was all on my shoulders. So you can only do that for so long until you do sort of collapse in a heap. Would have easily been a 60, 70-hour week, just in terms of just sheer volume of work. There was all the sales stuff. Then there was the delivery stuff. Then there was the team stuff. And then all the stupid stuff that I shouldn't have been doing behind the scenes as well. I was doing it all. I was wearing every single hat.
Often I call that octopus syndrome. That's the one brain, lots of tentacles, and everything sucks. What do you think for you were the top 2 or 3 challenges that you had to overcome?
10 years ago, we were doing just basic project work where, someone come to you with a brief. We'd quote up a body of work. There'd be a delivery of a project, over 90 days. And then we'd, maybe never hear from that client again or whatever. So there was no sort of repeat business there. And we were still solving our client's problem, but it was only a piece of the problem. We evolved our product to be a full and complete solution.
Love it. So, John, what was the turning point for you to reach out and connect? What was the point you went, enough's enough. I need to do something else?
When you're in business, you're very isolated. That's the real hard thing, because you can't talk to your mates unless they're in business. You've got no one to talk to. So just having someone to be able to debrief with, that gets you, that understands you, that understands the journey that you're on, is pretty invaluable.
How does it feel now compared to before?
It just feels a lot more certain, a lot more confident. It allows us to make better decisions in the business. So we know that we've got this scalable unit. It actually leads into the team to support that. One of the first key hires that I did when I first started working with you was to get a 2IC, and that in itself was just a game changer. And she was able to just free up a whole bunch of my time.
So what's a week look like now for you, John?
Up until a year ago, and being very sort of open and honest, I was in a different space where I was very removed from the business. I was literally working a couple hours a week, where it was almost a false sense of security, where I thought I had everything sorted, but it was probably on shakier ground. I'd been removed from sales for about 3 or 4 years prior to that. So I hadn't really done any sales for about 4 years, right? We went through a really challenging year last year in terms of our sales sort of dried up. We'd expanded the team pretty significantly. There were big payrolls every week to make and all that sort of stuff. So we found this point where the work wasn't coming in. There was a lot of money going out. I had to make some significant changes. It forced me to get back in touch with what people were saying on the ground, as in clients, understanding their issues, their challenges, what sort of products and solutions they're looking for. Fast forward 12 months on, working hard to then build up layers again in the sales team. We've onboarded a bunch of new people, internal sales. So having a real mindset within the organization around sales. So then to answer your question, what does a week look like? It's being more of that heart surgeon from a sales perspective. So having team doing all the sort of front end discovery calls, triaging calls, and then bringing me in specifically as that expert to be able to build confidence, all that sort of stuff. That'll evolve to a point where I'm able to step back again and have some more freedom.
And how's that, in the journey we've had, how's that helped with what you've done through Abundance, help you with that?
What this does for me is it's a space to critically think, and it's forced, where it's like, and leading up to it, I'm like, 2 days in a boardroom, but I always come away from these things re-energized, new ideas. So it's that forced space to actually like have an elevated view on the business, to really think about the problems, the opportunities, what needs to happen. And then it's getting a whole bunch of external eyes on your business as well, through yourself, the different coaches, the different people within your business. You can't see yourself swing. Everyone has the blind spots. So having someone there to lovingly call you out on some of that stuff, being a business owner, feeling uncomfortable, being in that uncomfortable position, but then leaning into that is been the thing that I take most value from.
Great. What would your advice be to other people then who are maybe in the earlier stage of the business, or maybe they've been around a while, but they're just hitting the plateau, specifically around that point, John?
I think you're moving forward or you're going backwards. And there is no real treading water, but surrounding yourself with people that show you what the brightness of the future looks like. Also peers as well, where there's always people that are a bunch of steps ahead of you that have solved maybe specific problems in business that you're trying to solve at the moment. So just surrounding yourself with just awesome people that, can support you and carry you along the journey.
If you had to go back to the John 10 years ago, knowing what you now know and going through the 10 years that we've done, particularly together, particularly around this, I've got to grow at almost all costs, I need to grow, versus actually sustainably optimizing for profit, sustainably putting in there, what would be the advice that you give to yourself?
There could have been a little bit more focus on balance. You said the words grow at all costs. And I think about, at all costs, or like that comes at a cost, whether it's through marriage, through your ability to be an amazing father, be present for your kids, to be able to reinvest in your health, have time to go and have fun, go out and surf and do all that sort of stuff, right? So I've compromised on a lot of that over the years. I think really how my thinking has matured is more of, you speak about that business owner joy. And it is like, I want to take my wife on a date every Friday afternoon, and I want to be there to be able to drop my kids off and pick them up from school and be present at all their stuff, and not be working on the weekends. So that's probably where my thinking has shifted to, in terms of just finding balance in life generally.
Love it. Finish this sentence. I almost didn't become a member of Abundance Global because...
I think you can look at it just really practically around the investment side of things. People get caught up in the numbers. You've said this a few times to me. We've only got to save you, once or twice a year, and we've paid for ourselves in terms of big mistakes or bad hires or whatever. I think if you're going to be serious around business, you do need to make that investment, and it will pay dividends in the long run. So you really need that long-term mindset in and around this investment that I'm making, in the short term will come back tenfold, given enough energy, time, resources, and you'll do well.
Yeah, love it. And I'd say you have done that, which is great. What's been one of the favorite parts of working with Abundance?
So no one has really, apart from my wife, understood the journey that we've been on. I think it's just that continuity over all those years. But then that's through the support of, your team. You've got amazing coaches like Nick and Julia and Lisa. It's a united front in terms of just that support network for us and our ability to call on you at any point in time.
Love it. Who would you recommend our business to, and why?
I think it needs to be people that are committed to taking action. So all the information, all the intel in the world is not going to help you unless you are ready to roll up your sleeves alongside your team and take action and implement. So that's where the rubber hits the road, and that's where most businesses fail in terms of they know what they've got to do, they just don't do it.
Yeah. So true.
Business is a self-development course, and it's going to test you at every twist and turn. Just keep at it, keep smiling, Keep plugging away.
Love it. Beautiful. That's awesome. Thank you.